All right, what's up, everyone? So today I'm going to be actually showing you guys a profiling session. Now, if you're not familiar with what a profiling session is, it's one of the services that I actually offer at denzelmensah.com if you would like one. And it's essentially when I sit down with you and I interview you for about an hour and a half. Sometimes we even break it up into parts, and I'll pretty much sit down with you, talk with you, and identify what your best fit personality type is. Now, this particular profiling session is actually one that I turned in when I was trying to do my certification for a personality hacker. So as you watch, try to guess and see what type you think that the profilee is, whether it be in the live chat if you're watching it as a premiere, or if you're watching it post-premiere, then try to guess for yourself. And hopefully by watching these, it'll be able to show you the different nuances of each personality type and how they can show up, as well as help you brush up some of your own skills and how people can show up in real life. So once again, if you would like any profiling sessions, then make sure to visit denzelmensah.com and we can book a session. And until then, I hope that you guys enjoy. All right, so first off, thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. It's going to help me a lot with my certification. Pretty much the way this is going to go is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. It's going to be very conversational, so I don't have questions like written down or anything right now, but I'm just going to be asking a lot of stuff to pick your mind. And you pretty much, there's no right or wrong answer, just whatever is most authentic to you. I might take a while sometimes to see which avenue that I'm going to go to figure some things out. And then, depending on how the session goes, I'll either present to you the type that I believe that you are at the end and break down what that is. And then that's your opportunity to tell me this doesn't resonate, or actually, no, that fits really well, or well, we should tweak this, whatever. Or I'm going to turn in a part 1 to my instructor, discuss with her to confirm, and then we'd have to do a part 2, which is shorter, just so that we can confirm, okay, this is the type that I believe that you are. Sound good?
All right.
Cool. Well, first and foremost, who are you? Just anything about yourself.
Oh, well, you should say, I won't say highly. I used to say highly when I was in the military, but I'm a motivated individual to accomplish the things that I want to or need to for my family. Obviously, goofy at times or silly at times. Like to have fun in any and everything I do. Um, Serious when I need to be. I think that's about it. That sums it up.
All right, cool. Do you mind? You don't have to, but sharing stuff like your age, where you work, anything like that.
I am 39. I am currently retired. No kids, just a wife.
Nice. Oh, so she has instead. So she has the kid instead.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, first question I'm gonna ask you is, what is something that you love to do? And when I say you love to do, I mean that you love to do so much. The only reason why you stop is because you're absolutely exhausted. Otherwise, you would go on indefinitely because it gives you energy.
Well, I like to watch movies.
True.
So yeah, I'd say watching movies would probably be that thing.
Okay. What about watching movies do you enjoy the most?
Well, movies are an escape at the end of the day. The obviously there are multiple types and so on and so forth, genres, but even going through that, it allows you to escape into the story, I guess you can say.
Mm,
So, one day, or not one day, one movie you're watching, you're in space, and the next movie you're watching, you're in a corporate setting, kind of thing. So you get to bounce from one setting to another as you go through just different movies. So you can base those, like at that time, those movies off of what you're feeling at the moment. If you're feeling like, hey, I just need a laugh, then you can jump into, say, a Medea movie.
right.
Or if you're feeling like just some heroism type escape, then you can jump into a Marvel or DC type movie, something like that.
Nice. Nice. That's good. Usually, if you're trying to watch movies to escape, what would you say you're trying to escape from?
Uh, well, I say that would be day to day life. So sometimes it's, hey, just had a stressful day or stressful situation. So it's like, let me just sit down and watch some TV or a movie and, take my mind off of it for a second.
Mm, mm. Okay.
And
That
then
makes
it also gives you time to think, or well, me, time to think.
Yeah, got you. What types of stuff do you think about?
Well, it's depending on the situation, whether if it's like a stressful situation, then I'm thinking about a way to find a solution in that time as the movie is progressing. I don't know when I learned how to do that, but I think it obviously probably was while I was in the military. But like school, when I was working on my bachelor's, I I'd sit there and like sit there with my wife watching a show that we normally watch together or a movie, something like that. And while we're sitting there watching the movie, I am also compiling the essay and I guess you say, main points, so on and so forth, or topics in my essay for my class. So
Mm,
I was putting like, I guess you say, the bits and pieces together while I was removed from my office environment that I would normally be sitting in to do my essay for my classes. So I'm able to, I guess you say, double mine, and I'm watching a movie, but I'm also thinking about how to put that together.
got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Are there any other things that you love doing?
Spending time with my family, riding my motorcycle, playing video games, going for long drives sometimes.
Nice. Are you an adrenaline junkie of some sort?
Uh, no, I,
Yeah.
I, I, I guess you say as a kid and now I still like riding motorcycles and not riding motorcycles, riding roller coasters, and yeah, I
Hmm.
do ride a motorcycle, but no, I don't feel like I'm an adrenaline junkie.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, guess his phone died.
So,
What you say?
or it kicked, I said, I guess it kicked me out or it kicked
Oh,
us out. One, two. It
interesting.
was like something went wrong. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that your phone died for a moment. Okay.
Oh no, no, it's charged.
Interesting. Okay. Um, well, now I'm curious, what are some things that you hate doing? Like the moment that you start, then you just want to like pull on your beard.
Hmm. Well, I'm not. I guess you say I'm not good with. Well, I ain't did one in a while. Interviews.
Mm,
Yeah,
interesting.
that it's well. What wouldn't they call it? Interviews. I guess it's the confrontation. I'm not good with confrontation. That irritates me.
Hmm.
Oh, so for me, it's more of a. I can sit down and have a conversation. But when I feel like in an interview setting, then I feel like, okay, did I answer this correctly? Or
Right.
is this what they're looking for? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, because obviously for an interview, it's like, hey, I need to get this job. So I
Right. Yeah,
want to
yeah,
make sure I answer everything right and they're understanding what I'm explaining or trying to portray in that moment. So,
yeah. Mm,
I'd say interview slash confrontation. It's kind of
mm.
irritating for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. So is it a little bit difficult for you to articulate like the things that you're thinking, feeling?
Oh no, no, it ain't that. I can. For me, it's the like I can express the topic going through multiple different things. I can express the topic clearly from my point of view,
Hmm.
but like in an interview setting, they're not going to say, "Well, so what do you mean by that?" They're
Oh,
not gonna stop and get clarity on what I'm saying. So it may be you know, do you think the sky is blue or is the sky blue? Kind of thing. And it's like, well, I think we see the sky is blue, but
right.
it's obviously not, that kind of thing. But then for them, they might not understand that information on one hand because they don't truly know that it's not blue. It's the refraction of the light, so on and so forth, kind of
Mhm.
thing. The scientific side of it, they may not know that, so they may be like, this dude thinks the sky is not actually blue, kind of thing. So though that something like that, and that's obviously a technical type of example. I don't think
Right.
anybody would actually ask that question, but um, it would be one of those things of okay, they don't understand the scientific side of it
Right.
in that aspect, so they think that I'm just some loony bin that's like, oh yeah, no, the sky's not blue, you know. Um, and matter of fact, that made me think about one. So I was doing an interview for a job when I was in the military, and they asked, which would you prefer? Would you prefer to be invisible or prefer to be able to fly? And it was for me, and they allowed me to explain my point of view on it, but it was like, okay, that's obviously you you can in a plane fly, but you can't do either one of those things on your own. So, I gave them my choice, but it was like, okay. And then I explained it, and then all of them just kind of, because it was like three people on that panel, they just kind of sat up like, we never thought about it like that, kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, that's why I made that choice. But like in that situation, they allowed me to explain. And I got to get some feedback from them
Yeah.
in the aspect of their reaction, body language, so on and so forth. Like, oh man, this is different. We've never heard this answer before, or it being explained this way. So it was like, okay. I made an impression. I got something back from that question, that response.
Mhm.
So okay, let's move on to the next thing, kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
was good in that aspect.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Do you like questions like that? Where it's like, hypothetical situations in that way?
Um, yes and no, because obviously it's depending on the topic,
Okay.
and then also who's asking,
Mhm. Also,
because you can. you can get a hypothetical, and I'll use the your spouse. You can get a hypothetical from them, and it's like, okay, and from you knowing their personality, so on and so forth, you're like, okay, yeah, you're giving me a hypothetical situation, but I also feel like this is a serious a question. So that's the caveat to that, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dope. Okay, so it's funny that you even say that, because that's actually a question that I often think about. Like, oh, I mean, everybody gets like asked, like, or asked themselves, like, which superpower would you have? For me,
Mm-hmm.
I would not have flying,
Mm-hmm.
because my question is usually, I mean, my response is usually because, like, physically or realistically, the higher that you go, the more cold that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine myself flying and not like having my, jacket on, the scarf, and like all this
Mm-hmm.
other stuff, and still being warm. So it's like, nah, just give me teleportation, or, invisibility, super speed,
Mm-hmm.
something. And even with super speed, then it's like, I don't like how as soon as like you move fast or something, then like the papers start flying and everything like that. I don't like that. So it's just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So just all those like logistical stuff. It's like, yeah, no, I'd just rather take teleportation or invisibility,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
I chose flying.
you did.
Yeah, between the two, because and what I explained to them was I'd rather be able to fly than be invisible. And obviously they turned back with the, okay, so why is that?
Mhm.
And I explained it to them. I'm like, well, being invisible, okay, hey, you can't see me, or being having the choice to be invisible. It's okay, yeah, I can't be seen. I can go different places and nobody would see me.
Right.
True. But flying, if I don't want to be seen, I can just fly and be at a point where no one can see me up in the air. And I'm invisible, but I also have the capability of being able to go wherever I want to go in a short period of time.
That's an interesting take. I feel like it doesn't really work out like that though, because if you're flying, then
Mhm.
usually people are like, look, like they're gonna notice. In fact, I feel like it
Clouds,
brings more attention.
clouds. Use the clouds. Use the clouds and move fast enough that ain't nobody really paying attention. Because you
Oh,
think
that's too
about it.
funny. It's just
Yeah,
it's just
think about it like this. Outside of someone laying in a park and actually looking up at the sky, how often do you look up without hearing anything, without being coaxed into it, like, oh, here I hear an airplane flying over, kind of thing. So you look up to see the airplane without being coaxed. How often do you actually look up?
I feel like I do often, but probably other people don't. I feel like I often do look up though.
Hmm.
Yeah, not like this, but
Yeah,
like as I'm walking, then my view is kind of also looking at the sky.
yeah, you got
Yeah,
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 okay.
and if something moves, I'm gonna look.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I
So I
get what
just know to stay out of your line of sight.
right, right. But yeah, no, I get your perspective though. I can see why they were like, oh shoot, like because clearly you put thought into it. So
Hmm.
that's what it looks like they're like looking for. If that's the case, like they're trying to see like what type of reasoning that you're gonna have behind something. And did you get that job? Do you remember?
Um. Oh yeah, I got into it. It was for being a Air Force officer, special investigations, special agent.
Mm,
Um. So I went to the school and got through the first portion, which yeah, got through the first portion,
uh-huh.
and then so I got my yeah, yeah, I pull that out all the time. It happens. So got the nice
Nice.
certificate.
Oh,
through the
nice.
first portion. So this certificate allows me to uh, join 88, probably even more than that now, because
Mhm.
obviously out of the 88 that are known, there are others that aren't known.
Mhm.
Agencies, this allows me to get into those 88 agencies or apply to those 88 agencies.
Mhm.
At the time, that was from 2009, but allows me to apply to those agencies and get a job with them. But the second portion, the second side of the training, which was specifically for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations,
Mhm.
I didn't pass the last test.
Ah, dang.
But I learned a lot of things about myself, so that's why I don't call it a failure. It's
Huh.
more of a hmm. It was more of an experience for me than an actual. Oh no, I messed up. I'm like, no,
Oh,
I had fun with that. That was great.
that's a good perspective to have. Do you remember those things offhand that you learned about yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm not a well, I won't say I'm not. I wasn't a very detail oriented type person, so the getting down into the nitty gritty of okay, the E before the I before the E, those type, P's and Q's type things. I
Mhm.
wasn't real deep on those. And then I also, I guess you said I had a focus issue where I would be like, well, hmm, this is, my schoolwork. I'm working on my schoolwork. And then it's like, oh no, there goes the squirrel, you know. So and I'll categorize it, with the mental term and the aspect of I feel like at that time, and I probably still do, I just control it better. Um, ADHD. So
Mhm.
it's like, oh, something that's going on. I always had, multiple thoughts going on
Mm,
and something to draw my attention away from what I was supposed to be doing at the time.
mm.
So I learned to combat that when I need to.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
But obviously, you got, you keep a dog on a leash long enough, then after a while, it's just gonna break the leash. And so I have to, when that's why I said when I need to, because in other times it's like, okay, I need to allow myself to just be me and not try to contain me because then I'm no longer me.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's good. That's really good to know. Interesting. Okay, so then going off of that, I know that I asked you to pretty much tell me about yourself. Uh,
Mhm.
but now I'm curious, how would other people describe you? Or actually, first, how would you describe yourself, even if other people disagreed?
Oh, well, um, I'm caring. I feel like I'm a nice individual. I can be blunt at times.
Mhm.
And obviously, some people say that's harsh, but I can be blunt at times. I, I'm, I'd say I'm kind of carefree
Mm, right.
at times, so that allows me to just, be a big kid kind of situation. But then, you get into other things like my office. I don't know if you saw it when I was panning around. Is organized chaos. Like I know where everything is, but if someone else walked in here, they'd look at it, they'd be like, "Oh my God, where? How do you even work in here?" And it's like, no, this is perfect for me because I know my stuff is over here and that's over there and my core's over here and yada yada yada.
Got it.
But you walk into my kitchen and my kitchen is I'm OCD. okay, hey, that fork is not turned the same way and stacked on the same type of fork that's
Mm,
in the drawer. Those Tupperware bins aren't stacked correctly. The tops aren't turned up so that they don't fall off when you pull out one of the Tupperware bins, so on and so forth. So I'm OCD in the kitchen, but everywhere else, I'm like, yeah, I'm okay.
got you. Interesting. Why do you think that is? Why do you think the kitchen is the one place that you're like, okay, I'm going to be really organized here?
Hmm. Well, it comes from cooking, because I'm the cook in my household. I primarily do all the cooking, so for me, it's in those moments. Sometimes you're working on one thing, and for me, I like to do multiple things at one time to in an attempt to make everything uh, be done at the same time. So, okay, hey, it takes the sides 7 minutes, or it usually takes the water 15 minutes to start boiling, and really boiling, and it takes 7 minutes for this rice to cook, and okay, it's going to take 20 minutes for me to be done with the meat portion, and so on and so forth.
Mm,
So it's like, okay, I can start this at this time, and that'll allow this to be done at this time, and this to be done at that time, and everything is scheduled to a certain extent, I guess you can say, um,
yeah, yeah.
so that everything's done at the same time. But if the spoon that I would use to stir the rice isn't in the drawer that it's normally in, then I have to go looking for it. So that takes up time
That
for
makes
me to
sense.
find that item. And then, if I go over here and I'm looking for a specific bowl or a specific pot, then that pot's not in the place it's supposed to be. Then I got to go looking for it. So that's taking up time away from getting everything done at the same time. So when everything is plated, then all the food is hot and not just the meat or the vegetables or the side or the biscuits, kind of thing. So
That's
it's
really good.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
kitchen is OCD. Everywhere else is kind of like, yeah, I'll clean it later.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Now that makes sense. Um, would you consider yourself to be someone who leans more on being open rather than structured?
Uh, I'd say yeah, because being open allows for, I guess you say, freedom of thought.
Mm,
So then, like, if I'm in a conversation with someone or we're working on something collaboratively, then me being open allows for new ideas and new things to come in, and possibly a more efficient way to accomplish whatever task we're trying to accomplish together.
hmm.
So being open allows for those things to happen a little more. I wouldn't say more efficiently, because obviously when everybody has input, then it takes more time. But possibly creating a new method in accomplishing that same task that we may be repetitively trying to do every other day, kind of thing. So, oh, hey, everybody has to take out the trash. Okay, if we, take out trash in the office, and if we get everybody to at least take their trash out of their bin and put it in this one place, then we all can just go to that one place, grab all the trash, and not have to go through every single bin to see if the bin even needs to be taken out. So
Mm,
then, okay, here we go to this one spot, pick up all the trash, and then we can all carry it downstairs and put it in the garbage bin outside when you're on that trash detail or on trash duty, kind of thing.
got you. Got you. Got you. That makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, okay. Would other people consider you to be an organized person?
Mm, depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Talk to me
you
about
ask my wife. You ask my wife, she'd probably say no. But other people outside of my relationship, I'd say yes. they
Okay.
would see me as semi-organized be-
Semi-organized.
because, everybody, like I said, like with the kitchen and then the rest of my office is two dynamics. You got OCD and then you got somewhat of it's organized for me,
Right.
but disorganized for anybody else walking into it.
Yeah.
So um, you have those two dynamics. So people will see, okay, hey, yeah, the top of his desk looks clean, but when I open that top drawer, it looked like, a kid in the candy shop,
Mm-hmm,
kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
So they, yeah, as people spend more time around you, they get to see, I'd say, some of the disorganization or the things, obviously, that you wouldn't want them to see, like, oh, well, I didn't know he was like this, kind of thing. So, yeah, I'd say most people, surface wise, they see me as organized. People who've been around me for an extended period of time, they see a mix of the two.
Mm.
They see the disorganization, but they'd also see, okay, a lot of this is more organized than it is disorganized. But, that's just a balance, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Which one would you consider yourself to be?
Uh, I'd say organized because, like I said, with my office, I know where everything is. It's just
Right.
not properly set up, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
I'd say more organized.
Got you. Are you someone who is good at being or at having to act on the spot?
Mm, depending on the situation, because if it's something I've been through before,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I guess you say fall back on, okay, I did this the last time that worked, or I did this last time it didn't work, so I need to do something else.
Mm,
And then um other situations where it's something brand new to me,
mm-hmm.
I can do it, but I wouldn't like having to do it because I'd rather think through the situation and make an educated type decision than to just jump on it.
Got you. Got you. Okay. Are you someone who's more likely to act too fast or to act too late?
Hmm. Uh, Spontaneous situation, I'd say probably too late. If
Mm,
it's like a life or death situation, I'd say possibly too fast. Even though it may be the correct way to respond to it, I'd say too fast because life or death, obviously, it's life or death.
right.
And it's it's one of those, I'd say, in those type of situations, you have to act fast, but it's also something you want to make sure every step you take is the correct one.
Mm, mm.
So you want to make sure you're thinking through it kind of situation.
Got you. Okay. Um, all right. Would you say that your best ideas come to you when you are alone or when you are brainstorming with other people?
Mm, best ideas, I'd say alone. Most, I guess you say, educated or most thought out would be with other people.
Mm, okay. Got you. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more, actually?
So best ideas, I'd say alone because it allows for that free thought, no input, no interruptions, so on and so forth. Um, Best educated and most thought out ideas with someone else because then I have that other individual to speak to say, okay, hey, okay, my best idea is this. Now bringing it to someone else and saying, hey, this is my idea. And then they say, well, what about this part? Well, I didn't think about it like that. Let me put that down,
Mm,
and let's tweak it a little bit. Okay, and now coming out of that conversation, then it's the same idea, but now it's more thought out and has more information that's been added to it. So say like for me, my education is in information technology management, where someone else has a construction, degree in construction. So me bringing up something with that has a construction dynamic to it. From my point of view, I'm looking at it from the information technology side of it, and they're looking at it from hard labor side. So it's like, okay, for them, they may say, well, it would take more work from my guys or whoever was on my team to be able to build this, going about it this way. But if we do it, another way, or the way I'm presenting it to you, then it would allow us to be able to get this done with less money put into it and less work from my guys, but also accomplish the same goal.
Got you.
So it's taking the guess you say the other people's backgrounds and educations to build a better product at the end of the day.
Okay.
So the idea is great, but having that extra input allows for a better product at the end of the day.
Got it. Okay, cool. Okay, now I want to ask, how would other people describe you, even if you were to disagree?
Let's see. Now I'd say that's depending on the individual and their perspective, but I've had people describe me as as a matter of fact, yeah, I can use that. When I was in not NCO training, what was it? Airman Leadership School, which is training we have to go to before we become supervisors in the military. One of the instructors, he described me as, I guess you say, happy-go-lucky, carefree, silly, personality, humorous personality, kind of comedian, class clown kind of thing. But we had a presentation that we had to do where we spoke about what we did in the military, what our job was. We had to do a presentation to the class and in front of the class. And he, I guess you say, he kind of bit his tongue because, and he told, obviously he told me about it after the fact. And this was in front of the whole class, which was even funnier. But he, and I guess you say I kind of exaggerated the dynamic a little bit when I went up there, because I'm up there, and it's my people, my friends that I, been hanging out with in class. We were still joking as I was going up and getting myself together and putting my papers up, and we're still laughing and joking. And then, I looked at him and he was like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready." When you're ready to press the button, kind of thing. Yeah. He was like, yeah, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm ready." And he put his finger up, towards the button, and I'm sitting there laughing, and I was like, and I literally did that in front of the class, and I was like, okay. And then I started explaining my job and what's going on, and giving him the professional side. And after he finished recording, when he turned the camera off, and, this is back in the day where they actually had, it was a small camcorder, but you still had the camera, wasn't using your phone. But he, stopped the camera and he was like, "Wow." he and he sat there and he explained it. He was like, "I would have never I was expecting for you to be joking through your whole presentation, yada yada yada. He was like, I did not expect you to just. It was like you flipped a switch or something, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was doing something that required me to be professional and have, a structure behind it to
Hmm.
explain everything. And, people want to, I was supposed to be telling people about my job. These people don't know about my job. So
Right.
I have to make sure that everything I'm putting forward is correct. And then also everything I'm putting forward is given to them in a
Hmm.
manner in which they are expecting to receive it. Because if I'm laughing through the whole thing, they're like, okay, his job's a joke.
Hmm.
Which for for me, I know without me doing my job, then this person can't do their job and this can't be accomplished and this can't be accomplished. And if my job isn't there, then the system breaks down because and I was in communications at the time, so
Hmm.
the system breaks down. So if people can't talk to each other, then and like they say in relationships, if communication breaks down, then the relationships is destined to fail. So the Air Force was destined to fail if my job wasn't in there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
he yeah, he never made that, and at that time I was an airman. Airman Lures is just a comedian. He added that dynamic to Airman Lures is a comedian, but when it's time for him to be professional, he can be.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That makes
So
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it
yeah.
goes back to what you were saying with serious when needed.
Mhm.
And I've seen that in you too. Like it's very clear that it kind of reminds me of like Jaleel White, Steve Urkel.
Oh, Steve
Really
Urkel
Steve
and
Urkel,
Stedman.
yeah, like how he could slip into the Steve Urkel like type of
Yeah.
mood so easily, and then
Hmm.
slip right into Stefan Urkel like really
Yeah.
smoothly, and it's seamless, and he can just be like just straight in that way. And yeah, I've seen that with you, like like you're not scarily serious,
Hmm.
but you're also I mean, I think that you are like incredibly playful. Like you said, like you are. I think earlier you said something about like a man child. That's probably not the phrase that you use. A big kid, a big kid,
Yeah, big kid. Yeah.
big kid. Yeah. And yeah, I see that with you for sure. But at the same time, even with that, like I can tell, like it's still like has like a polish to it in a way, at least from what
Mhm.
I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. I cater my comedy to the environment and who I'm around. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Would you say that that is more of who you are than a serious person? Or like if you had to like make a percentage of the two,
Yeah. I'd say 60-40.
60-40? Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Um, well now I would love to know how were you like when you were a child? Like can you tell me like what your siblings would have said, what your parents would have said about you, what teachers would have said about you, and then also like how you view yourself.
Uh, as a child, my siblings would say I had a very short fuse. Um, and my on my dad's side, my one of my cousins actually, we we were doing the repast for my aunt, and she sat there and told me that, yeah, you were. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if she actually called me a demon child or not, but um, she said I was mean. I'll put it that way. She said I was mean. She was like, you would like get irate like if we took one of your toys or something, you would get irate, and I was afraid of you when you were a child. You know, um, so teachers, they'd say, I'm trying to think of the situation I was in. Teacher, principals, um, they told me I was very intelligent.
Mm,
And the situation I'm thinking of, she sat there and told me, "You're intelligent." And not that it was scary, but that I pretty much I was sitting there and she was like, "I know you're playing dumb, but I'm a play along with you and explain this." Because I forgot, and let's say enough, I forgot what it was she had said or what had happened that led to me sitting in the principal's office. But she was like, "I'll play along with you. You're, I know you know what's going on, but you also it was one of those situations I understood the amount of trouble I could get into
uh-huh.
for doing said thing wasn't that much. Was like, oh yeah, it was in school suspension. I have to do it for a couple of days. I knew the punishment
Mhm.
for the crime already,
Yeah.
so I knew I could do it. And okay, hey, I got to spend a couple of days in school suspension after or whatever during free time. During my lunch period, I had to sit in ISS kind of situation. So she was like, I know you already know what has to happen, and you've already accepted that. So I'm not gonna I'm gonna tell you because that's part of my job. I have to tell you what's going to happen. But I know you already know. I know you're an intelligent individual and obviously a lot smarter than some of these people, some of the other students that are here. And so this is what's going to happen. And okay, I'm done. Because I don't want to talk about it anymore because I already know you know.
Yeah.
That was kind of her presentation of that and
Hmm.
explanation behind it, like why she was I won't say she was cold, but
Hmm.
she was just very blunt to the point. I said what I had to say in as few words as possible and now get out of my office because I already know in 5 minutes you're going to be laughing and doing whatever you were doing in the first place because you've already accepted the consequences of what you did.
Mm, mm, mm. Got you. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. So was that just like one situation or were you like an actual like mischievous child?
Yeah, I'd say I started off mischievous, aimlessly, aimlessly mischievous,
Mm,
and then I became more of a focused mischievous to the point of where it's like I know I do this, then I can get in this much trouble, but if I do it this way, then I can get away with it.
interesting.
Yeah.
No wonder you like movies so much, I feel like that's a lot of stuff that, we see in movie characters too. And so
Oh
that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
huh.
And it is obviously in those situations it's depending on the mischief, it's fun. So it's like, okay, hey, I'm having fun. This is just something fun. Yeah, it can be a little troublesome, but it's for fun. So
Right.
it's okay. I'm
What
not
type of
doing this to cause harm, I guess you can say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you mind sharing any of the mischievous activities that you got yourself into?
Let's see. Um, Sneaking girls into the home, into my parents' home when they were still there.
To play video
Um,
games, of course.
oh yeah, yeah, play video games. Um, we'll say play games. We'll go that far. Let's see. In the military, going and causing trouble within, I'd say, the unit, the building. Oh hey, we put shaving cream in this guy's hand, and we didn't do that, but those type of situations. Oh, put shaving cream in the guy's hand, and then we, tickled his ear with a feather, and he smacked himself. But he doesn't know who did it. He thinks it was his roommate when it was actually me, kind of thing. And I'm already out the door, kind of situation. So, those type things. There are, I guess you say, that mischief, and then like intentional. And this is more internet age. Intentionally trolling people, and just doing it just to do it up to a point, and then it's like, okay, I didn't have my fun. Man, I was just messing with you. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Kind of situation.
Yeah.
So, though I'd say that type mischief, just messing around with people.
Got it.
Getting on the nerves, and then okay, hey, I didn't. I see I have brought you to a point where you're not irate yet, but you're almost irate. So
And
yeah,
that was just what was fun for you.
Yeah. Well, it is. I guess you say I consider myself, and like that was one of my best subjects when I was in school, scientific. I consider myself a scientist, and in that aspect, because it's fun, but it's also an experiment to see that extent, that personality for that individual. And I feel like we touched on that at one point when y'all were visiting, where in our NCO training, we had to go over the greens, the purples, the gold, not purple, green, gold, orange, and blues. Those lenses, and I had one. Now it's even funnier because I just thought about that. That is crazy. It was a guy, NCO, before I went through that training. He was doing, I guess you say, the same thing, and he came into the office and he was like, "Hey, I'm just need this." He was coming from a different section, different job, and he was asking help from us. And he was like, "Hey, I just need this, that, and the other done with this cable, and I know y'all the cable guys, so I think y'all might know more about doing this than we do." And he brought it to me, and I was like, "Okay, cool," da, da, da. And then he was like, "Wow, so I feel like you have a kind of a happy-go-lucky type personality, but you have something else in you too." And then we end up going back to his office as we were talking, and he was like, "Yeah, like this book," and he started explaining the orange personality, and the greens and the blues and the golds, and I'm laughing, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm an orange," and he was like, "I feel the same way," and I was like, "Yeah," I said, "I'm an orange, but I feel like I have it's other stuff. It's another dynamic to me, just like from the Airman Leadership School. There's another dynamic to me, but I feel like I'm an orange because I like having fun, so on and so forth." But he agreed with me in that aspect because he had the cable that I had just fixed, and he was like, "You went through fixing this cable And trust me, he backtracked and he was like, trust me, I didn't just do this just for us to have this conversation,
Right.
to find this out. He was like, I actually needed this fixed, but you went through this methodically.
Mm,
You figured out, what was actually wrong with it and what you needed to, you knew what you needed to do to correct that thing. But
mhm,
you went through all the somewhat troubleshooting points of looking at the cable, seeing what possibly could be wrong, what connection, what's not touching what
mm, mm,
type
mm,
situation. So he was like, that's not an orange.
mm,
And so he was like, but I can see where the orange characteristics play out in you.
mm,
So it's in that situation, and at that point I hadn't even been through the lens conversation actually.
mm,
So he was like, you have a very good understanding of personalities, you know, and you haven't even been through this kind of situation. So, and that's where I feel like I got that from. It's just let me poke these buttons and see which button does what, with
right.
this individual. So as a supervisor, even before, like I said, before that lens training as a supervisor, that gave me insight into my subordinates, my airmen, that, okay, if I ask him to do X, Y, and Z, he'll do it without me even having to explain why or give him a why behind it.
Mm,
On one hand, and that was something I learned just trial and error. For that individual, it was I didn't have to explain it because he knew at the end of the day, at the end of the task, I would explain why we did it and
mm,
explain
mm,
why we did it exactly the way we did. So when he became a supervisor, and that was really the end goal of it, when he became a supervisor and took my position as a supervisor over a team, he could go through those methodical steps and understand it more
mhm,
than I did at that point where I was learning it on my own.
mm,
He was given those tools ahead of time to digest and bring into his daily activity and then build upon it instead of just, okay, hey, I need to learn this. I'm a supervisor now. I need to learn how to do this now.
mm, mm,
So, and
mm,
then with another individual, I literally had to explain it before we even started.
mhm,
But he
mm,
understood that I didn't mind explaining unless it was like we need to do this now, we need to go, explaining why we were doing it
mhm,
and explaining the end goal. He understood that I was open to letting him know that information. I wasn't I guess you say, the person that was like, oh, well, I'm not going to tell you these things because then my job becomes obsolete. It's like, no,
mm,
I'm gonna tell you everything because at the end of the day, you're gonna be doing my job at some point.
right.
So I don't need to play I have a secret.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So, would you say then that you're someone who's very good at breaking things down to like their smallest parts in a way, like information especially?
Yeah, yeah. Because and like I said earlier on, um our everybody has a different personality.
Yeah.
And in that point of view, when someone like in an interview having to go through it and like, okay, this person doesn't understand the the sky's not blue, it's actually black at the end of the day, because but you see it that way because of the colors and the light reflecting and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
The I'm trying to think of the yeah, it was a quantum physicist. It was a YouTube video I watched. A quantum
Mhm.
physicist. She was explaining a quantum uh, processor of
Mhm.
quantum physics. She was explaining it, and in that YouTube video, she with the basis of that YouTube, the purpose of that YouTube video was she explained it to kindergartners. She explained it to
Mm.
someone in high school. She explained it to a freshman just starting out doing quantum physics. And then she explained it to someone with a PhD in quantum physics already, like
Mm,
herself.
mm,
So
mm.
the differences in explaining that same topic
Yeah.
and the capability of being able to do that, to explain
Right.
that same topic to all
Yeah.
those individuals at different educational levels,
Yep.
that's kind of how I look at it when, just any information that I may have,
Hmm.
you have to tailor. And
Yeah.
I'd say that's something that came from the military. You have to know how to tailor your information for the individual. But obviously, if I could say, oh yeah, Denzel doesn't know anything about quantum physics. I know about quantum physics,
Hmm.
but yet that's my assumption, not my knowledge. It's just at the end of the day, it's a hypothesis. It's not an actual fact. So at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you could know about quantum physics, and I'm explaining it to you like you're in high school when I need to be explaining it to you like you are a PhD student.
Mm.
So
That's
that's where the I guess you say the learning personalities and expressing information comes in. It's like, okay, hey, I need to be able to try to grab as much of this person's personality
hmm
from the jump so
Yeah.
that when I'm explaining something, I'm not making them feel like they're inadequate or, oh, well, let me tell you this and actually saying it in the aspect of, let me tell you this in layman's terms. It's like,
Right.
okay, it's the kind way of saying you're dumb, you don't know as much
Right.
as I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna tell you this way. And so automatically for some people, like you could say that to one person and they're like, okay, they're not calling me dumb. They just know I don't know this information. So they're going to explain it to me in as simplest terms as possible. And for
Mm-hmm.
some people, that's how they want it in the first place. Give it to me simple. Don't make it difficult. Just tell me, straight up. And then other people are like, no, I'm intelligent. I actually know some things. So don't talk to me like I'm stupid, kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's catching those small cues from an individual, an interviewer,
Yeah.
and trying to in the moment make a decision off of that on how to express whatever thought or information I'm trying to express.
That makes total sense. Total sense. Oh. Um, would you say that you're someone who's usually aware of your surroundings?
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's definitely the military in me.
Got you. So before the military, were you still like that or nah?
Before the military, I'd say I wasn't as aware of my surroundings,
Mm.
but I still was. Like, and everybody's probably been through the club situation where you're in the club and then, you're having a good time, but you feel some
Mm.
type of energy behind you and you're like, something's not right.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so that, I won't say forces you, but it prompts you to move like, okay, hey, I need to maybe move and I don't need to have my back to this side of the room because something over there is not right.
Right.
And
Right.
then you turn and you move and you adjust how or adjust accordingly and then moments later a fight breaks out,
Mm.
so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, oh, that's what it was. Somebody's about to get into a fight. Okay. Or in one situation in Texas, someone got shooting.
Mm.
So
Mm. Mm.
yeah, they shut that club down that night.
Yeah.
Um, but but yeah, so it's you have those situations, but you also have the others where it's like you see an incident going on in front of you, between a stranger and one of your friends, and for me, it was I guess you say in awareness in that type of situation, I'm aware of the situation. I
Hmm.
know the extent I'm willing to go in that situation. Like, my friend's about to get into a fight. I know the extent I'm willing to go, but I'd rather not go there.
Hmm.
So let me try to diffuse the situation before I have to. Hmm. Have you seen Van Helsing, the movie Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman and uh, I think it's Kate Upton, the
Hey,
lady, the girl that played in um, not Underworld. Dang it, the vampire werewolf movie.
um, uh,
Kate Beckinsale. Yeah, that's
oh,
it. Not
oh,
not
the
Kate Upton.
vampire.
Yeah,
Now I can't remember. Twilight,
no,
right?
not Twilight. It's the other one.
Oh,
Dang it. It's not Underworld, and that's what's killing me. I got it downstairs. Man, but her and Hugh Jackman played in Van Helsing. Is a movie he was in. He was, uh, guess you say, the right hand of God, where he worked with the Catholic Church to
mm,
get rid of vampires, and in that one, he was going after Dracula.
mm, mm.
But he he at the end of the movie, and sorry you haven't seen it. I'm kind of giving
Oh,
some of
it's
the way,
all, yeah.
but he becomes a black werewolf.
Mm,
So that is, I guess you say, mentally for me, like my stand is like, okay, if I have to get to that point where I am the black werewolf, everybody's about to be hurt at the end of the day. So, that's mentally my extent, and I know that, and I
Mhm,
know the ramifications behind it to the
mhm,
point of where I could end up killing someone. I could end up just,
mm,
breaking someone down to the point of where they can't walk anymore, or,
yeah,
in, levels, so on and so
yeah.
forth, different levels of force. So I would prefer to diffuse the situation until I have no other choice but to act.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
that those that type of awareness, personal awareness, and then also just environmental awareness is something I say I maintain.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Especially with the whole diffusing thing. I know that that's the first rule of being a ninja. Like, never fight unless if you know you can win, but
Hmm.
also make sure that you run as much as you can and take advantage of each opportunity to run before
Hmm.
try to like fight.
Before you actually have to fight. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I definitely feel that.
Hmm.
Now I'm curious about your relationship with your emotions.
Hmm. Which ones?
Just in general.
um.
I'm glad you know that there's more than one.
Oh yeah. Well, my I'll say in most cases I I won't say bury them,
Mm,
but I control them to the point of where it's you want to, like, anger. I'll use that one because like I talked about earlier, as a child, my fuse was very short.
mhm.
I knew it was short, but I was like, hey, if I go crazy up front, then whoever it is going to be concerned about pushing any further or pushing the issue any further, because if I'm willing to be this hostile up front with this small action,
Mhm.
then a larger, more abrupt, more overt action from them is probably going to be a lot worse, and that's how they're going to view it.
Mm.
So now, I learned to control that anger, and it's something else I'd say I honed a little bit more while I was in the training, the law enforcement training,
Mm.
um, in controlling my anger so that I'm able to think clearly
Mm.
and still be able to pay attention to my environment and what's going on around me,
Mm.
the energy coming from that individual. And if my attempts to diffuse the situation are working, or if it's causing more agitation.
Mm.
So I I'd say I control my emotions in that aspect. Um, if they like in the in the leadership school thing with the instructor, I with the humorous side of myself, I
Mm.
controlled it in that situation because that didn't call for that emotion. It didn't call for humor. It called for professionalism and a serious tone.
Right.
So I controlled an aspect. But yeah, I'd say my emotions. I really I'll say do my best. Obviously, you can't always control them in every situation, but I do my best to control them and try to allow the emotion that needs to come out
Mm.
in that situation or during that topic come out. If it's, oh, hey, I need to be more empathetic
Mm.
in this situation than sympathetic,
Mm.
then I'll do that. But if it's okay, hey, you know, man, we'll use yes, I'm married, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, she's, my friend, she's, not happy about what's going on with her significant other. I can't get to a point where she feels so close to me that she's too comfortable. But also, in order to help her out, I need to be sympathetic enough to fix it or help
Mm.
it, kind of thing.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. Okay, cool. Would you say that you are someone who, well, I guess first I'll ask, just in a binary way, would you say head over heart or heart over head?
Mm, I'd say head over heart.
All right. And why would you say that?
Because I know even in the emotional, I guess you say, situations, I'm always gonna think through it first.
Right.
My initial reaction is gonna be to think through it before it's like, oh, we're happy, and the feelings behind. I feel like this will make you happy. No, no, I'm gonna think about it first because at the end of the day, you being happy
Hmm.
doesn't trump my happiness, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, yeah, this, me allowing you to borrow my car might make you happy, but it's going to piss me off possibly because the possibility of you and it not even being your fault. We're friends and it's not your fault that someone hit you in my vehicle, but
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you were driving my vehicle when someone hit you. If you weren't
Yeah.
driving my vehicle,
Hmm.
then you wouldn't have gotten hit in
Right.
my vehicle. Now I don't have a vehicle because you got hit in my vehicle.
Yeah.
So it is I'd always say I'm head over heart because at the end of the day, like in that situation, specifically,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna care how you feel.
Yeah.
It's going to be about me. It's like you just messed up my car. So, then the thoughts of, okay, my way of getting to work is gone.
Mm,
My way of getting to a fast food restaurant or going to get something to eat is gone. It's going to
mhm.
be more difficult for me to accomplish said task because I don't have a vehicle.
Yeah.
I don't have the freedom of movement anymore because I don't have a vehicle because it's getting repaired, or now I got to buy a new one. So now you're hitting me financially also. So
Mhm,
now it's
mhm,
your fault that I got to pay more money that I was planning to allocate to something else.
mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, it's
Gotcha.
always going to be head over heart.
Gotcha. Good to know. Good to know. Um, would you say that you're someone who had to learn how to use tact?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that was difficult. Um, and I say I haven't completely mastered that yet, but I for me it was always honesty is the best policy.
Mhm.
But in the military, obviously you have a ranking structure and people is always at the end of the day, someone's always going to outrank you in some form or fashion. Even if you are a 4-star general, you
Right.
have the president that outranks you, or another 4-star that's above you that
Mhm.
outranks you because of the amount of time they've had that rank on. So in using the quantum physicist uh, example, um, me explaining a task to one of my subordinates, one of my troops,
Mhm.
and then explaining that same task to my supervisor or my superintendent or my commander or section chief, whichever one it may be, is going to be different because for the subordinate, it's like, okay, this is how I explained it. At the end of the day, it's their job to look at me and say, I didn't understand what you were saying. Or could you, I've learned some things since I've been here.
Mhm.
Um, I didn't need you to explain it to me in layman's terms. You could have
Right.
explained it to me in a more professional way.
Mhm.
But
Mhm, mhm.
for my supervisor or my superintendent or my commander, the immediate presentation is going to be at this level
Yeah.
because they're over me.
Right.
And
Right.
matter of fact, one of my supervisors, and I was doing it's a enlisted performance report. We have to do one every year, so performance report we get every year.
Mhm.
And I was putting together my performance report on everything I did for that year. And he sat there and he read it, and he's like, like I used proliferation in one line, and he was like, "What is this? This looks like," and he kind of, I forgot the word he actually used, but his what he was meaning or expressing was, "This looks like a doctoral thesis that you're putting forward," and and I was like, well, and it was just from my point of view. I viewed my superiors, my supervisors, commanders, superintendents, section chiefs, and stuff like that, as more intelligent than myself.
Mm, mm.
So I'm like, if I'm expressing these things in these intelligent terms and with a higher level of thinking,
Right.
this should be either on their level or right below their level.
Right. Right.
So, and he just told me, he was like, dude, this is like crazy like levels of intelligence. Like
Mhm,
these, you know, I can read this, and he was like, and I will tell you, I'm not dumb in any form or fashion, but
mhm.
this is This is going. Some of the stuff is going over my head. They don't understand this. You need to express yourself in layman's terms. Put all this stuff in layman's terms, as simple as terms as possible, because then when someone is reading it that's in a different position, they can understand it.
Right.
And I'm just like, so you just told me I'm too smart for my own good, and my superiors are dumb.
Right,
And
right.
that was the takeaway from that. But it was something I needed to hear, so I changed what I needed to change and fixed it the way I needed to fix it. But he also just was like, emoji, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like you just blew my mind with the way you expressed these simple things in such a intelligent way.
Got you. Got you. Got you. That's dope. That's dope. I could definitely see how that would be the case for you too.
Yeah, I was still confused for a while, but I understood, but I was just like, wow. So like literally, you're telling me my superiors are probably not as smart as I am. That's scary. Because you always want someone who's over you to be more intelligent. Someone who's telling you what to do.
Right, exactly.
Making those type of life decisions for you to
Hmm.
be more intelligent than you are. So
Hmm. Hmm.
I was like,
Yeah, that is
wow,
disconcerting. Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely. Yeah. What would you say are some things that are obvious to you, but not obvious to other people? And then some things that are obvious to other people, but then it always is like, how is Aaron always missing this?
Uh, hmm. Obviously, coming off of my degree, I'd say technology is a little more obvious to me.
Mm,
So I'll and yeah, I'm trying to remember I forgot which movie it is, but it was literally like, what's the first thing you do to try to correct something going wrong with your system?
mm,
Or hey, your phone's not working, or the application on your phone's not working the way you want it to. What's the first thing you do? For most people, they literally start digging into, oh, this is the phone, and this is the application that's not working. Okay, I close the application and open it back up, and it's still not working. So on and so forth. For me, it's like, okay, and after them telling me, like, I closed it and then I opened it back up and it still didn't work. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is just turn your phone off
turn off. Yep.
and turn it back on. I'm like, that would have been, in talking them, I guess you say, through that situation, that would have been the first thing I would have did, was just turn it
Right.
off and turn it back on. I wouldn't even try to shut I might have shut the application down and opened it back up to see if it would fix it, but at the end of the day, I would have just turned it off and turned it back on
Right.
and seen if that fixed the situation. If it didn't, then I would have started digging into the application itself and trying
Mhm.
to figure out what was going on with it. Because at the end of the day, and using that same thing, the people who build those applications, write the programming language behind it, they're the ones that's going to know, specifically digging into that application, what's wrong, what piece of the language is messed up, and that they need to fix.
Yeah.
Not you, not the normal everyday to day person, not even me, because
Yeah.
I haven't started in that field yet. But excuse me. But yeah. So I'd say technology is more obvious to me than most people. But hmm, I'd say, I guess you say, true emotions.
Mm, mm,
People's true emotions, or their inability to control those emotions, is the, I don't, I'd say, would be I don't understand how he doesn't know that, how Aaron doesn't know about that,
Mm,
because I guess you say because I don't say I've mastered it, but I've learned to control my emotions. So, when everybody's like, oh my God, this guy's shooting in the building, and I'm like, okay, guy's shooting in the building. I need to get to the nearest exit without having to cross his path and
mhm,
possibly end up getting shot.
mhm.
So the nearest exit is that one over there. That just knowing the surroundings kind of situation. So I'll go that way, get out of here. Oh, there goes the girl I came with, or there goes my wife. Let me grab her,
Mhm.
get her in front of me, get her out the door first, and then I'm right behind her,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
situation.
yeah.
But so everybody freaking out. It's like, why? That's not
Mhm.
going, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's literally like the statement I've said to people. Me freaking out is not going to help the situation. It's not going to
Yeah.
change the situation. So I'm going to remain calm and
Mhm.
think about how to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I'd say that be my blind spot is emotions.
Mm, mm, mm. That's really interesting because yeah, like I fully resonate with that, like that
Yeah.
whole aspect of like I view myself as like incredibly level-headed. Even like when I
Mm-hmm.
was working as a server at Buffalo Wild Wings and stuff, then there were other people like it's like, oh my gosh, like we are like on a 2 hour wait list, and there's food that's backed up in this way, and like they're just like running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Mm-hmm.
That was more of the time where I found my center. Like, okay, this is what's happening. Got to
Mm-hmm.
handle it this way. Move this way. Boom, boom. All right, my table's going this way. Up, got to dodge this panicking server. Got to keep myself focused. All right, let me be
Yeah.
the one to take out the trash because obviously everybody else is freaking out too much to be able to do that. And it's like in those types of moments, I double down and focus and keep that
Yeah.
exact. And so, yeah, and it's funny because yeah, I've also thought about like stuff like if I'm at the movie theater and somebody just starts shooting, like, all right, me going like that's obviously gonna attract attention. It's like
Yeah.
okay, that I said the same thing. That's not gonna help anything. You know,
Yeah.
my sister one time, back in 2012, like we were leaving London and we missed our flight because she how they don't allow like liquid and stuff on the plane and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
had like this Victoria's Secret perfume and she was like arguing with them and like, no, please just let me put it in my bag or whatever. And they had to pour it out and she's like crying about it. I'm like, dang, and then we missed our plane by like 5 minutes and she
Mm-hmm.
started sobbing, like, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. I knew me being like, yeah, it is all your fault. Why didn't you just leave the Victoria's Secret? That's not gonna
Yeah.
help anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just told her like, yo, you know what? It's all right. It happened. We're just gonna have to figure this out now. So
Now, now, see, in that same situation, my
mhm.
thought process would have been at the inspection area. Okay, they said that you can't, take it on the plane. All the sobbing and crying and complaining is not going to change it because that's a rule they have.
Yeah.
So put it down,
Right.
give it to them, go on through the thing, and we can
Mhm.
make it to our plane because
Mhm.
that's the task at hand. We need to get on the plane.
Facts. Yeah.
So I would have literally hand on shoulder. It's not going to stop. Throw it away. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't even there for that section because she was like
Oh, okay.
going through a different thing. But yeah, no,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
right there with you because it's like, bro, like let this go. We have a plane to catch. I
Yeah.
don't care how expensive that was. Like these plane
Well,
tickets
and,
are
and yeah,
expensive.
and that's the thing. Like, which costs more, the plane tickets or the perfume?
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. That makes a lot of sense. Um, what we're almost done, by the way. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, but there was another question I wanted to ask. Oh yeah. Do you ever feel like you don't really know where you stand with other people, or like in friendships, social settings, stuff like that?
I I feel like I'm socially awkward
Mm.
in that aspect. So I'd say no, social settings, no, I don't feel like I know where I stand with a lot of people in those social settings, but I, and obviously this is kind of a, I wouldn't call it a humble brag, but using the teacher, the principal, teachers, the supervisor, all saying, "Oh yeah, you're intelligent." Like this
Mhm,
is not normal for you at this stage to think things like this.
mhm, mhm,
So mm, I feel like that gets in the way. Like
mm,
even sometimes with my humor,
mhm,
because the understanding or depth of what I'm seeing or what I'm thinking in that situation,
mhm,
I'm getting down to that smallest point, and
mhm,
that's what makes the joke make sense, kind of situation.
mhm, mhm,
So
mhm,
for me, I'm all the way down into it, and it's like, yep, here you go, kind of thing, and there goes the joke, and then it's like, where did that come from?
yeah.
My wife actually said this to me, like, how's that funny? It's like, well, and then obviously after you have to explain the joke,
Mhm.
then it's not funny anymore.
Right, 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 exactly,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
but it's I'd say socially awkward in that type situation
got it.
because not everybody's on friends, and you got to have a variety of friends, but not everybody's on going to be on that level, even just in business either.
Mhm,
Talking to people is like, like someone can make a programmer could make a programming joke, but
mhm,
because I don't know programming,
right.
then it's like, how is that funny?
Mm,
Oh, that's what it's. Oh, I get you now.
mhm.
Still not funny,
Yeah.
but now I understand their comedy behind it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so it is, I'd say, socially awkward in that aspect,
Mm,
even with my humor.
mm, gotcha.
But yeah, no, I don't feel like with all my friends, I know where I stand. You
Mm,
have to have that, guess you say, that blunt conversation
mhm,
to
mhm.
get to that point where it's like, man, sometimes you say stuff and I'm just sitting there lost, and I'll laugh at it anyway because I don't want to make you feel bad, but sometimes I don't understand what you're even talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
But until you have that conversation, or on whatever topic, it doesn't have to actually be about humor.
mhm,
But until you have that conversation, you truly at the end of the day don't know where no one knows where they stand with their friends. And that's how you have so many uh, I thought they were my friend, but they were actually talking about me behind my back
mhm,
kind of
mhm, mhm.
situations.
Got you. Yeah,
So
that makes
I
sense.
don't I don't feel like anyone truly knows where they stand with any of their friends.
Mm,
So
got
yeah.
it. That's very helpful. Thank you. Um,
Hmm.
I have last two questions, and then I'm going to present to you what type that I believe that you are, and we're going to go through the verification process. Um,
Okay.
so my first question is, how much alone time do you need on a regular to feel like a complete human?
Alone time as in, what do you mean?
Like you just being completely alone.
Oh, in a week's time, not obviously not consecutively, but I'd say a few hours.
Mm. Okay.
I don't really need much time to myself to feel complete because matter of fact, yeah, that's probably the best way to explain it. I I find joy
Mm-hmm.
in other people's joy.
Mm.
So when, like with my cooking, when my wife is like, "Oh man, that was good," and I liked it, or "Oh, the way you made the potatoes this time, or the seasoning you used, that was you put just enough on there," and it's like, okay, just enough seasoning. How much seasoning did I put on there? Oh, okay, I put that much seasoning on there. This is the seasoning I used. Okay, so on another day, when I want to bring out that level of enjoyment, that's the season I need to use and the amount, so on and so forth. So I don't really need much time to myself except when it's okay, hey, I need to process something
Mm-hmm.
and I don't need any noise, around me kind of thing. I can, and I've discovered since I started my process of learning uh, different programming languages,
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered
Mm.
lo-fi music.
Yeah,
So I'll turn that on, and it's obviously sound, but it's literally just it's no words. It's just literally music. That okay, hey, this is upbeat or a little slow beat, type music, but it's allowing me to think,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and it's there. It's some noise, white noise in the background, pink noise in the background,
Mm-hmm.
but it's drowned out to a certain extent by my thought. But then when I come out of thought, I can hear that,
Hear it. Yeah.
and then I can go right back into thought without it disturbing the thought process.
Got you. Got you. Cool.
But just a lot of time on my own now.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, that's good to know too. Dope. Um, okay. So my last question would be, and this is kind of like an off-ball type of question, but
Mm-hmm.
Linford, who I've also interviewed, is your
Mm-hmm.
brother, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What similarities and differences do you see between you two?
we're very close. I'll say that. Similarities, I'd say there are a lot, whole lot. But obviously that comes from him being the older brother and us spending the amount of time because we all slept in the same room. Spending
Mhm.
the amount of time we did together, there are a lot of similarities, but I'd say like differences is I don't I'm trying to figure out how to express it. Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of empathy, sympathy
Mm,
in that area, so he's more of a he says something and he's not going to get that energy from the person he's saying it to, whether it's coming off as like, no, I'm not saying he's just completely blind to it, but that, oh man, he hurt my feelings, and
mhm.
you really feeling that energy come off of an individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't get that. He's like, I said it, this is what I said, and if it hurts your feelings, depending on who you are, okay, it might bother me, but if it does and I really don't care about how you feel,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go about my day without any remorse
Uh-huh.
in me hurting your feelings.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, and well, no, because I can't say that either because I kind of feel like that too. Because the reason why I just kind of laughed at it and start thinking about it is because I thought about a situation where I was like, I could really care less how you feel. is what it is, you know. And so I can't even say that. So yeah, I'd say we're very similar. We have small nuances here and there that are different, but I can't even think of one off the top of my head after I thought about that one, and I did that too.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. How far out do you plan into the future?
Depending on what it is, I'll, I guess you say, make soft plans for stuff,
Mm,
but you know, I'm also one of those type people that it's like go with the flow. It's like, okay, hey, today the wind's blowing this way, so this is the way we're going, you know, kind of
mm,
situation.
mm, mhm.
But you know, and I'll like planning wise, like, um, yeah, perfect, yeah, because that's actually what I'm doing right now. My our me and my wife's anniversary is in November.
Mm,
I start planning for our anniversary around I'd say middle of September
mm, mm.
to prepare for that and have all the stuff lined out. I literally, I don't know which book it's in, but literally, yeah, have written out like
Nice.
this day, this is what we're doing. Next day, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
You know, these are the times we need to be in, you know, whatever place to be able to accomplish this thing and then have time to get ready for the next thing.
Mm, 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 mm.
So I do plan stuff out, but I'm also a spur of the moment type individual. Like, oh, hey, I feel like Popeyes today. Well,
Mm.
today's, you know, Tuesday where I normally don't go, but I feel like going to Popeyes, so I'm going to Popeyes. You know,
All
that
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
spontaneity is also there. So
Makes sense.
it's always it's depending on the topic and the situation.
All right.
But
Cool.
I try to plan, but it's more spontaneous type things.
Got you. Got you. No, that's perfect. That's good to know. All right. Well, we're gonna launch right into the verification process, and I'm going to present to you what type that I believe that you are and why I believe you're that type, etc.
Hmm.
And let me know if you have any disagreements. I'm going to share my screen here to make it a little bit easier.
Now let's see if I can put you on my laptop now because it's finished
Oh yeah.
loading.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll give you a second to do that.
Change up my lighting in here. Got my projector on now.
Nice.
The Internet Explorer, well, Chrome is loading right now, so
No problem.
got to wait for that one. So how's the day going so far for you?
So far, it's pretty straight. Um, I mean, this is like the
Y'all,
first thing I'm doing today, to be honest. We stayed up
uh,
a bit late. Uh, yeah, we stayed up
I
a
was
little
about
bit.
to say, did y'all get all moved in and everything?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We're in the new spot now, so it's
Okay.
dope. Uh,
Yeah,
a little,
yeah. You got a little more room.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. This is my little like office space.
Mm,
Even though there's like a few other people like living here, like it's
Mhm.
relatively pretty quiet. Like everybody's really to themselves and everything. Uh, Pretty much introverted. I think actually like Jamila and two of the roommates are definitely introverts. And then the one other guy, I don't know yet for sure. He's the last person that I have to interview, so I'll see. I feel like he's yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but yeah. So it's been it's pretty quiet until we all come together and we all get along well. So yeah, I'm liking that.
Okay, that's good. Trust me, that's it's always nice to have introverts around.
Oh yeah, I agree. I agree. Especially when like they're not easily overwhelmed. Yeah. So far, they haven't given like
Well,
any
yeah,
sin,
yeah.
but
That's the other side of it.
yeah, like if they're like,
Because
oh my gosh, like just about every small thing, then it's like okay, but everything's been real smooth, real chill. So yeah, I like that. Um, yeah.
let's see. Yeah, no, I know they have the introverts that tend to get overwhelmed easily, I guess you can say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, those are the ones that I don't really like to be around. I don't find myself to be an overwhelming person, especially because I'm very adaptable. So I'll read your energy and then I'll see how much energy to bring to the situation. But yeah, those who like talk about people being like very like vampirical in nature and stuff, it's just like okay.
hmm I'm over here. The browser is blocking it, so
Oh, okay.
blocking the camera and stuff. So let me see and hit manage. See if we can. Let's see, camera allow. Yeah, okay, there we go. These are the things. Hmm. Reload the page. Let's see. Uh, Alrighty, and enter.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, there we go.
Perfect. All right, cool. All right. So now,
Oh yeah, I forgot.
cool. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and share this screen. So the type that I believe that you are is
Okay.
a type called ISTP. And I'm gonna definitely send you a recording of this session too.
hmm
To the recording of the session so that you can like check it out. But yeah. So essentially, most people who know about the Myers-Briggs, they're familiar with the four-letter code or the four dichotomies. So I'm going to go ahead and explain those, but there's a lot more meat to all of this. So I stands for introverted. The opposite of introvert is extrovert. Now, people usually get these like a little bit confused because society says like, oh, introversion and extroversion is determined on where you get your energy, but a more accurate display of this would be where do you focus your energy? And so for you, uh, like I believe that you are someone who focuses your energy more on your internal world, whereas like extroverts, they focus their energy more on the external world. But there are extroverts who do get energized from being alone and don't really like to be around people and stuff like that. And there are introverts who actually are energized from being like with people and everything, even though they are most focused on their internal world kind of thing. So I think that you are an introvert, someone who's more focused on your internal world. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Awesome. Cool. Then we have sensing versus intuition. So S stands for sensing. Sensors are people who usually like to focus on what's factual, what's reliable, what's verifiable, something that's observable and consistent, pretty much. Now, an intuitive is someone who likes to focus on things that are like metaphysical in nature, conceptual. They like to look behind the curtain a lot of time and speculate. And they like to like, make just a lot of like guesses and think far out into the future, predictions, stuff like that. Heavily into philosophy, stuff like that. I believe that you're actually kind of good at both, and we'll explain why in a bit. But I think that you lean more on the sensing side. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I can. Yeah, I like to focus on what I'm seeing and
Yeah,
not just
yeah,
what could possibly be there.
for sure, for sure. And then we have T versus F. So T stands for thinking, F stands for feeling. So T types.
That's the
Wait, I
easy one.
want to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. So T types are people who are more focused on what's logical. They make their decisions based off of what makes sense to them logically. They are also focused on like metrics and data, information, stuff like that. Whereas F types, feeler types, they're more focused on like, okay, they make their decisions based off of like what's most true to who I am, or how is it going to influence the rest of the group emotionally. And they're more focused on like interpersonal matters, things like that, like their values. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that you're definitely on the T end of the spectrum. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's funny because we're going to get to that too. And then last but not least, P. So P, the opposite of P is J. So a P type is a perceiving type. They are people who are pretty much more go with the flow. Oh yeah, I'll tackle each day as it comes. They like to keep their external world like disorganized, so they can keep their internal world free, like like organized in that way. So the way that you were saying, like, well, for me, you know, I know where everything is, but other people might not, kind of thing. Whereas like a J, it's kind of like, okay, a judger type, they like to keep their external world like very structured and organized, and you usually know where all of their stuff is and everything. And then they can roam their mind way more freely, if that makes sense. They're less spontaneous in nature, whereas like P types tend to be more spontaneous because they're able to respond to things a lot more quickly. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. So with this, I like to call it two different coins, and we're gonna get there. Personality hacker, the place I'm getting my certification from, essentially they have this model called the CAR model, because there are 8 mental processes in total. So like these are called cognitive functions. So for every personality type, the 8 cognitive functions, for every personality type, they have 4 cognitive functions of the 8. And it goes from your strongest one, which is your dominant, to your least competent one, or the one that you're least certain of, which is your 3-year-old or your inferior function. So with personality hackers model, they have it as like a car, a 4-passenger car, where your driver is your strongest function, your co-pilot is your second strongest function, your 10-year-old is your third strongest function, and then your 3-year-old is your least strongest function. And so we're going to get into that. But another thing about this is also that, like I said, they're two coins. So, and this is where it gets a little bit heavy. But like I said, there's 8 mental processes in total. Each personality type has 4 mental processes, and each of these 4 mental processes are 2 sides of the same coin. So the driver and the 3-year-old are one coin, and then the co-pilot and the 10-year-old are another coin. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does.
Cool. And then the last note to put on that before we get into the meat of it all is that if your driver is an extroverted attitude, your co-pilot is going to be an introverted attitude. And then your 10-year-old is going to be an extroverted attitude. And then your 3-year-old is going to be an introverted attitude. And then
Okay.
inverse that. If your driver is an introverted attitude, then your co-pilot is going to be an extroverted attitude to balance you out. And then your 10-year-old is going to be an introverted attitude to match your driver. And then your 3-year-old is going to be an extroverted attitude to match your co-pilot. So everyone has 2 extroverted functions and everyone has 2 introverted functions, but you are determined on introversion and extroversion depending on if your driver function is an extrovert or an introverted attitude. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. And this is also why you get people who consider themselves to be ambiverts, because they see both their driver and their co-pilot pretty like equally, but it's like one is always going to still be the driver. So yeah. So this is the last section of the verification. So these are the 4 passengers in your car. These are also what we call the coins, or the mental processes, the cognitive functions. So your driver function is a function called introverted thinking. The nickname for it by Personality Hacker is accuracy. Accuracy is all about pretty much it's pretty much looking at what makes sense to you as an individual aside from what everybody else thinks. It's also asking the question like, okay, what makes like what's consistent and logic. And a lot of times, because the flip side coin of accuracy is harmony, which we're going to talk about, this is also the function that is very technical. Is very mathematical in a way, and it can oftentimes get you into trouble because you might be thinking something, you might have like a certain thought, but then if everybody else like disagrees with it, then it can get you in trouble. It might also have you be a little bit more tactless, and you have like problems with that in that area. But yeah, essentially, introverted thinking or accuracy is looking for what makes most consistent logical sense to you. It's cleaning your own data. It's looking for the right answer to everything. It's problem solving in that way. And it's also, it likes to pick things apart to its smallest bits. So that's the part of you that's like really focused on like logic and picking things apart in that way and understanding like, okay, like this is how I approach this and this is how I approach that, stuff of that nature. Does that resonate with you so far?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's
Now,
crazy, but yeah.
oh yeah. Now, your second function is a function called extroverted sensing, and the nickname for it is sensation. So for this function is focused on pretty much seeing things for what they are and not reading deep into it. It's focused on responsiveness, like quick responsiveness, quick reflexes. So it's usually very aware of its surroundings and knowing how to respond in those situations in the quick second, pretty much. It also has an affinity a lot of times to style and aesthetics, stuff of that nature. But essentially, for ISTPs, especially when it's paired with that driver function of introverted thinking, then it's an interest in like being able to pick physical things apart, fixing certain things, being able to respond quickly, being able to like know, like for example, like a lot of basketball players are ISTP types. And so they know like, okay, the exact trajectory, like Kobe Bryant, like he talks about like almost like the basketball court, like it's a math thing. Like, okay, I know the exact trajectory of how I should move in this way and boom, boom, boom. So yeah, when you combine that driver of introverted thinking that's very focused on technicalities and everything with a co-pilot like extroverted sensing, then you get someone who sees things for what they are. And also a lot of times, like just that's why like a lot of people of your type can see things like how you said you and Linford. Linford was also an ISTP, by the way. Like
Yeah.
y'all can have an opinion with your accuracy function, and then your sensation is like, yeah, that's just what it is, and it also looks at the most simple way to, like, handle something like, well, have you turned it off and turned it back on?
Mhm.
This is pretty simple to me, and last but not least, again, it's the part of you that like jumps into action. um, However, people of your type tend to skip over their co-pilot a lot of times. Every type tends to skip over their co-pilot, especially when they're in like an unhealthy place, and they do what's called a loop, which is pretty much skipping the co-pilot and going to the 10-year-old. So the 10-year-old function for an ISTP is a function called introverted intuition, and the nickname for it is perspectives. So introverted intuition is, at least when it's like in the driver or co-pilot function, it's essentially this notion of having thought A. Like if you're sitting in, church and you hear a sermon, you have thought A, and then you get to thought B, thought C, thought D, and all the way up to like thought Q. And then you're like, wait, how the heck did I get over here? And then people with introvert intuition or perspectives higher up in their stack, then their mind automatically retraces the thought process all the way back up to thought A. And then it's like, oh, okay, now I see how thought A and thought Q correlate. And so from there, sometimes somebody might come to somebody with a perspective function and be like, yeah, G. And then the perspectives person might be like, Q? And then it's like, whoa, how the heck did you know that I was going to think that next? And it's because the perspectives person is observe their own mind do that so many times that they're able to now project it onto other people in that way. Now, for an ISTP, it's a 10-year-old. So 10-year-olds are still smart, they still can say smart things and everything, but you don't want them driving your car. And so this is the part of you that, at least for a lot of people of your type, they tend to think too much about like what are other people thinking of them. They can also become paralyzed a lot of times because they're thinking too much about the future and where they're headed and all of that. When in actuality, what would be more healthy for them is to hop into that co-pilot and just get into action, because the co-pilot is what's going to balance them out. But instead, they'll stay in that introverted space, which is why it's a loop, because the driver and the 10-year-old, they're both introverts. So they're going to start talking. So your accuracy is going to be like, okay, well, what do we think about this? And what do we think about that? And like, this is my opinion over here. And then your introvert intuition or your perspectives is pretty much going to be like, yeah, and then what's the long-term implications of that? And what does this person think? What does that person think? And it's just this perpetual loop. And sensations like, guys, how about we just do the thing? And we'll figure it out when we get there. And usually for people of your type, that's best because y'all are really good with improvising. A lot of other types are not. So for them, figuring out when they get there is not going to work out well. But for people of your type, it's kind of like a video game, like where like the map starts to clear out more as you like get there. So like as when you get to the bridge, then you'll figure out how to cross it because the sensation is good at being able to respond right away. And then that's
Mm.
also where that perspectives function comes in. But perspectives is a place that, our 10-year-old, we tend to go there in times of play. So for you, that could come in with you like being interested in, for example, quantum physics, and other stuff like that. But I remember like we were over at the like that one day when we were at your house. I think we were watching the show The Hypnotist. Is that what it's called?
Oh, mentalist, yeah.
The Mentalist, yeah. He's someone who would have perspectives as his co-pilot or driver function. So that's someone who's like most, capable of like understanding like and everything. And whereas like, in a 10-year-old, it's like, okay, you have a little bit of that ability there, but it's not really like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
you like to like it's best for you to lean more on the co-pilot, extroverted sensing, sensation, to just see what's really going on. Like, hey, just give it to me straight. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah. Does that resonate with you so far?
Yeah, yeah. The
Awesome.
the the okay, hey, going from Q back to A. Yeah, I've done that quite a few times.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then last but not least, The flip side coin of your driver function, extroverted feeling, is a function called harmony. This function is all about pretty much getting everyone's needs met, keeping everybody's happiness on your radar, and tending to that happiness in a way. Now, this is your
Mhm.
3-year-old function because you have the least certainty there. So this is the part of you that's like, okay, I don't always know where I stand with people. So people of your type can either double down on it and be extra polite, extra kind because they don't always know all the social cues, or they can actually be like, nah, forget about this. And then they could double down on their driver function and just be like, I'm gonna just say whatever the heck I want. I don't really care about the relationships around me. I don't really care who I offend, stuff like that. And sometimes it could be both. But this is the part of you that's also like enjoys to like cook for people and just seeing how happy they are, like when they like eat the food and stuff like that. And pretty much this is also the part of you that's like interested in like social dynamics to an extent. But yeah, this is a part of you that's like, okay, I can be a little bit awkward and everything. And you tend to have a lot of thoughts in your driver function of accuracy, but then it's like, but if I say these thoughts, it might disrupt harmony. So I'm gonna just keep this to myself. Like this is the accuracy is also the part of you that's like, oh man, I'm surrounded by idiots. But then your harmony function is like, well, let's not tell them that we think that they're idiots. And so, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's how you're supposed to be. You want to tell people they're dumb?
Exactly. Exactly. Would you say that that resonates with you?
Yeah, yeah, that does. That's pretty funny. This is somewhat scary, but it's funny.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, comments, anything like that?
Let me see if I can find it because me and my wife, obviously, we sat down and did one of these a while back, and I sat there trying to figure out. We did it on the computer,
Oh,
trying
the
trying to figure out the personality test, and
mm,
so we were trying to figure out, trying to find the specific attachment. There we go. Mm, yeah, so well, you said ISTP
yeah.
on that online thing. I was an INTP.
Mm, yeah. And I could see how they probably would have thought that for you,
Hmm.
especially online, because, like I said, I think that you're good at both your sensing and your intuition. But
Hmm.
an INTP has an even different kind of intuition than the
Hmm.
ISTP does. So the INTP has exploration or extroverted intuition, and that's in their co-pilot. Whereas for an
Hmm.
ISTP, like you don't even have expiration in your stack at all. So you're using it, yeah, like it's a whole different type of intuition there, and that's why those online tests like are not really anything. Like I like
Hmm.
they're not good. It changes up like everything for you.
Yeah, yeah, no, I laughed. I was just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, here I guess you say the I, T, and P is like, yeah, okay. Hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm still in those realms. It's just that co-pilot is somewhat different, but hey,
Yeah, the co-pilot and the 10-year-old for the INTP would be different.
okay,
Actually. Yeah, you'd have the same driver
yeah,
and
the
the same
coin, yeah.
3-year-old, but yeah, the co-pilot and 10-year-old, the co-pilot would be extroverted intuition instead of
Hmm.
extroverted sensing, which is a whole different thing. And then your
Okay,
10-year-old would be introverted sensing, also known as memory, rather than introverted intuition, which is also a whole other thing.
okay.
That's more of like those like geeky, nerdy types of people, like let me see, like someone like I guess like Bruce Banner, like the Hulk, maybe.
Hmm.
Yeah, or like, yeah, just those like nerdy type of like scientist type of people in a way.
Okay.
Yeah, but yours is more of like a kinesthetic focus and everything, and focusing like the metaphysical in that sense. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's interesting.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I'm glad that we were able to do this, and I will definitely make sure to send you the link to this session for you to be able to check back on and
Hmm.
everything. And if you want, I'll also send you some like resources as well to look more into it if you're interested. I think that's really cool stuff, and I'm excited to talk with Shay about what personality type 2 might be.
Yeah, nah, that'll be good.
For sure.
She'll enjoy that. I gotta go make sure she's awake right now.
Oh yeah, most yeah. I'm gonna go and eat
Mhm.
first, and then I'm gonna come right back, and we'll get that out the way. But thanks again, man. I
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
this.
no problem. This was fun. I got to learn about myself.
Yeah, and I got to learn about you. That's great. I can't wait to tell
Mm.
Jamila.
Oh boy.
Thank you for taking the time to watch that video. And if you enjoyed that, please like and subscribe. It actually really helps out my channel a lot, so that more people who actually care about what I want to say can actually find me a lot more easier. Also, if you did enjoy it, then maybe you'll enjoy a lot of my other content as well. So be sure to check out some of my playlists where you'll be able to find a lot of my older videos and older content. And last but not least, if you would like any profiling sessions or coaching sessions, be sure to check out denzelmensah.com, where you'll be able to book me and you'll see the rest of my services. But thanks again, and have a great day.